Let's cross live now to Dubai and speak to Dr. Hephzibah Suobo, who is the chairman of the Bayelsa State Decade on Ecosystems Restoration Committee. Thank you very much indeed for joining us on Newsnight. Now, COP28 has started in earnest, but then in retrospect, let's look at what happened in Egypt last year at this same summit, COP27. There were resolutions to raise funds to help adversely affected nations in climate change. But then not much has been done to back up the resolutions. What should we expect this time around?
Well, thank you very much for that wonderful question. It is a question in the minds of every delegate, especially from Africa. Last year we gathered at COP27 in Egypt, where they established multiple takeaways on the resolutions that will become binding on all member states, especially state parties coming from over 200 nations. And last year they established the Loss and Damage Fund to compensate developing countries and small island states that are affected by the negative impact of climate change. And they realize that the causative agents are not the developing countries, but the developed world, the heavily industrialized world. They were responsible for climate change and years of global emissions, and that have exceeded the tipping points of 2.3 degrees Celsius. The expected global climate quality is tipped at 1.5 degrees Celsius. But right now we are seeing extreme weather exacerbate around different parts of the world, especially in Nigeria, as witnessed in recent perennial flooding in the coastal littoral states and also in the northern part. And this calls for concern, and because every nation that is a signatory to the Paris Agreement in 2015 are required to provide the nationally determined contribution, NDCs, as part of their national strategies and adaptation plans presented to the UNFCCC at every COP. This year's COP, we want to see a follow-up of the agreement for last year, which is the implementation of the Loss and Damage Fund, which they pledged the sum of $100 billion, and no commitment has been made so far. So at this COP28, we are looking at a front line of both civil society delegates and member states that will be represented here to pressure the developed world to make additional commitments to the 100 billion, and which will be used as an instrument of climate financing and to finance different projects, and also finance energy transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy, cleaner renewable energy, and also to stimulate the new economy, the new and emerging economy, which we are looking at, the Green Blue Corridor, and to also establish divestments in the fossil fuel industry.
Fantastic. If I
and
may
ensure that energy states make.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, very brilliant intervention there. But I mean, that's generally how COP28 is expected to pan out. As it affects African countries, specifically Nigeria, and of course Bayelsa State that you represent, what are your expectations? Because there's a challenge of, who pays who, the issue of cash, funding. What are your expectations really in terms of concrete decisions? Like you said, the 100 billion that was, pledged last year, not a drop, not a penny has been paid so far. What's Nigeria's expectations?
Okay, thank you very much for that wonderful question. At the subnational level, we also expect some kind of direct development benefits from our engagement, because the climate subject affects regions and also states, sub-states, and everybody is represented. Both civil society and NGOs are represented to talk about their own problems. From last year before last at COP26 in Glasgow, Bayelsa state government, established their footprints at COP28 by hosting a side event where His Excellency, the governor of the state, Doyediri, addressed a global forum of stakeholders on the Niger Delta region. Of course, Bayelsa is the epicenter of the Niger Delta region. The area and its adjoining continental shelf, which includes the exclusive economic zone and the contiguous zone, accounts for barely 70% of Nigerian foreign exchange earning in terms of oil and gas exploration. And of course, all of these things will go away when we have the states decide to follow the pathways, the legal pathways to decarbonization, and they are given a benchmark of 2030. Developed countries like China and the United States, and they are saying let's extend it to 2050, so that the sustainability pathways to decarbonization will be established. And the question is, if the world moves away from crude oil and from fossil fuel, what will states like Bayelsa, how will they earn their revenue? How will Nigeria earn its revenue to sustain its vast economy? Of course, the call is to diversify the economy into sustainable sectors where the carbon footprints will no longer be seen. And of course, there are so many projects that have been prescribed, to be able to boost the economy, as at that time. So Bayelsa State is also present here in COP28, and we are looking forward to engaging development partners to be able to diversify our economy, our subnational economy, and ensure that the state also follow the national climate policy and response strategy established by former President Muhammadu Buhari, and which has now been inherited by our new President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to be able to follow the pathways and ensure that our national implementing entities are working with the global stakeholders to implement the UNFCCC agreed frameworks. The frameworks include the NDCs, the nationally determined contributions, and the transitional monitoring outcomes as established by the UNFCCC. And when we follow these pathways, definitely Nigeria will not be left out in the new and resilient economy that is being proposed right now.
Fantastic. Dr. Hephzibah Suobo is Chairman Bayelsa State Decade on Ecosystems Restoration Committee. Thank you so much for joining us all the way from the COP28 holding there in Dubai.